traditional families, and their family is all over the place.
Sure. Yeah.
So what they're advocating for is ambiguous.
Who are you thinking about there?
I'm thinking about lots of politicians in Italy and elsewhere. But anyway, no, I don't know. Anyway, no.
Scared they might come after you.
Everybody, they might come after me. No, I think that the problem is that when you say, "Oh, you need to be happy," we want you to be happy. We want you to, we want you to get into employment. Whatever your choice is, whether it's a good measure or a bad measure, it's a political measure of well-being. Okay, so this, in a broader terms, on a national level, when you're talking about politics and you're talking about the way forward for a country, there are elections, there are political debates, there are interviews, there's journalism that asks critical questions, in Britain, not in Italy, asks critical questions to politicians. There's a sense that there's a plurality of views of what a nation needs.
Okay, but in terms of talking about the good life, which is something I'm sort of interested in, employment is work is a factor in that. But if you're talking about a set of services which only pursue that as an end, then it's quite a narrow view in that sense. And there's many other components like relationships and.
But there's also the fact
that make up a good life.
Yeah, but there's also the fact that some people might not. You might think, you know what? For now, employment is not a priority. So you have other things to think about now.
Yeah, completely.
So don't worry about the employment.
Yeah.
Okay. Because the important thing is that you get better for these other things.
Yeah. Which services are saying that we should just drive at employment then?
I don't think that there's services that say you just need to focus on employment, but there's a sense in many services that if there's a high rate of employment, then with a certain approach, then that's
means success.
That's a success. Then there are services that were built specifically with the idea that to bring people back to work.
Yeah, but I can think of several services in London that advertise in their promotional material that they got X amount of clients back into work last year, and so on.
Yeah, I'm not saying
is the worry then that becomes the only mission.
Well, the worry is that if you don't get into work, you can still have a successful treatment, and there's an ambiguity around that. So I'm not saying again that it's a bad thing to have employment.
Sure,
but then it's bad, for example, if your employment is not meaningful.
Yeah.
So if it means nothing to you, then it's questionable whether it's good to be in employment.
But how many of us think that we have meaningful employment anyway? There's was it 60% of us think we have jobs that don't mean anything whatsoever.
But you see how political then the question means.
Yeah,
it's really very political, this question.
Yeah.
And what I was trying to say before is when you have a political debate at a national level, there's a plurality of views that are accepted. And there is no sense that treatment in mental health are political. There's no sense that, these nice guidelines are pushing for a political point. And I think this is a big issue because it's kind of used as a conclusive argument that, look, this treatment is the most evidence-based treatment that we have to treat this specific disorder. I'm not focusing on the specific disorder. I'm focusing on the whole picture. And the striking bit, I think, of this is that this is not like some kind of intuition that I had that some treatments don't focus on the individual symptom. Like even 100 years ago, Freud, more than 100 years ago, Freud was talking about these things. So was talking about the fact that there's a subconscious world.
Sure.
And that subconscious drives affect the way we live in different ways. And so a drive has an energy and then has a content as well. So the content.
What do you mean by a drive?
So an instinctive desire for something, a
Right, okay.
push. So could be to eat, for example, as well. But
So that has an energy.
so that has an energy attached to it, as a kind of has an energy attached to it. So you can, but it also has a content attached to it. So you can love, for example, love can be a drive,
Sure.
but then you love something, so that expresses itself differently in different humans. People love different things.
Yeah.
And you can love money, for example.
Yeah.
You can love lots of different things. But then if you remove one of the symptoms, the energy of that drive is still there, right? So you've said, for example, you can't, you love cats. From now on, you can't see cats anymore for some reason because you discover you become allergic.
Right.
Then you're going to love something else. It's not that desire will just vanish.
Sure.
So that energy will still be there. It will find another content.
Okay.
So this is true also for suffering, right? And this ties beautifully into the previous episode, if you self-harm, like there's a content of self-harming, there's also an energy that you need to express this. If you can't self-harm anymore...
Self-harm is the symptom.
Self-harm is the symptom. If you can't self-harm anymore, you'll find another way to express that suffering.
And what is self-harm the symptom of? What's the energy that's attached to that, the desire, do you think?
Well, I don't, when you talk about these things, I don't want psychodynamic therapists to listen, because every word you say, if you get one wrong, it's easy to get a word wrong when you're talking about psychodynamic theory.
Okay.
So I won't get into too much detail of that, on that. But there are different drives that are destructive or constructive, or the subconscious world of the human mind is a mess. It's difficult to explore, also scary for a lot of people to explore why people want to do things that are destructive, or
Sure.
Partly because it's not just destructive, as we spoke the last time, partly because that helps you if you're self-harmed to deal with very complex issues. But the same thing for like being very sad, being very depressed. If you make that sadness go away and you don't know why this person was sad, you don't know how this is going to express itself in the future.
Yeah.
You might find that this person becomes very anxious. You might
Yeah.
find that this person starts being very aggressive. Same thing, if somebody's very aggressive, you stop this person being aggressive, they might find another way to express how they feel. So the individual symptom means nothing outside of a context. The context is really important. But I don't want to do too much CBT bashing as well, because as I said, there are other ways of seeing this where actually having a cognitive behavior approach is much more useful than other approaches, okay?
Sure.
As I said before.
It's dependent on the circumstances.
Depending on the circumstances. So this is a skill that we can't just learn looking at a procedure or a nice guideline. We need to have an approach that takes into consideration different aspects, and we need to train people to be able to make these evaluations outside from a pressure from above. So you could have, for example, that you have a service that is a CBT-based service, and you can have that in this service we focus a lot on whatever scale of anxiety or depression, and we want to make the results go down. But when you have patients should have a choice of what treatment they want, and should be in a position to speak to people that can explain to them what different treatments entail to see what they want better. But if you have a treatment service based on psychodynamics, right? So this kind of which stems from Freudian theory and other psychoanalysts, kind of looking at the internal subconscious dynamics within your mind, let's say, to be brief. Then you need another way. If you want to make that service evidence-based, you can't use the same measurement, in my opinion, as you would use for CBT. So you need to find another way to evidence success.
Sure.
That
For
takes
that service.
that takes into account what the treatment is meant to achieve, which is not removing symptoms. And the same for a range of other types of therapy. So, and at the moment we have this univocal model of evidence-based that kind of is a one-size-fits-all type of approach that tends to favor CBT and or medication. So kind of the medical model, let's say. And I think that it would hard to go the opposite way. So it would hard to only say, only treatments that focus on understanding your past are effective. I would disagree with that as well. Right? That would be biased in the other direction. We need to try to find some kind of compromise where everything is considered.
Sure.
Anything else that I missed? I'm trying to think if I missed something. No, what I want from people that are listening is to write emails to us. So we're good in terms of views, you're listening a lot more than I thought. But if you can write us some emails, ask us some questions, this will become better because
it becomes a discussion.
It becomes a discussion because, I'm not the oracle of wherever. I don't know the truth about everything. I have some thoughts that I want to share. This is a place of safety for me because I have a chance to talk about things that we don't have a chance to talk about in services. But we need to make this a conversation. So we need to get people involved, people that say, well, I completely disagree with you on everything, and this is why. Or people that say, well, you didn't explain this very well. Can you explain this better? Or why don't you do an episode about this or that? And that way we can push our conversation forward.
Yeah.
So the way to do that is to write us an email.
apospodcast@gmail.com. Sorry, I suddenly heard a bit of an echo, but it's not.
Okay, no. I didn't hear an echo. So it's apospodcast@gmail.com. Then we have at apospodcast, which is our Twitter account and our Instagram account. And patreon.com/apospodcast if you want to support us financially for our costs and etc. We'll try to treat you well as well meaning we'll try to give you news before we tell other people and maybe try to post episodes before. We're trying to think about if we can give an additional episode to people that help us there. I would say that for this week
that's pretty much it. Thanks for listening.
We'll talk to you in a couple of weeks. Thank you. Bye bye.